Hello there, beautiful. Welcome back to Real Women, Real Talk. I'm wearing my jacket. The words on it say beautiful. It's to remind you of how beautiful you are, God's creation. And my favorite pillow that reminds me of the diversity that we are. Different women, different backgrounds, different age groups, ethnicities. And we come together to discuss topics that pertain to all of us as we're enlightened through God's word of how to journey through. Today, we'll continue in our conversation with Barbara. She'll share with us. She's in the midst of a journey where she's dating a non believer, she's pregnant, she's lost her mother, like the woman at the well who had an encounter with Jesus. She had an encounter with Jesus that changed her life. So I hope you will be encouraged as she shares vulnerably today about her journey. I want to remind you that we are praying for you. And email us at womensministry@crcconline.org. We'd like to hear about some of the topics you would like to discuss. Today, listen in as Barbara shares with us on Real Women, Real Talk. So, one of the things you felt was anger. Can I ask you, was fear there?
Well, yeah. Yes. I mean, I was one that I would say, "Oh, I'm gonna have kids in my 30s, or maybe I won't even have kids." I've always loved children, but for me to be 21, you know, to start that journey, yeah, I was extremely scared. More so not having my mother, and at that time, I wasn't seeing what it was more of like what he did to me, not what he was doing for me.
Oh, you need to say that again to somebody.
In the beginning of my grief, when I'm not comprehending why it's what is being done to me, not for me. And now the Barbara that's sitting here, the mother of two, the wife, will tell you the entire time he was doing it for me, not to me. And I didn't understand that. Her death felt personal to me. It felt like, why? What, do you hate me? Did I do something to you? Like, even to the point where I'm like, I know I'm going out. I know I'm doing, I'm in a relationship with this guy. We're not married. What is it? Like, I thought that it was because I did something wrong that he was punishing me. And that's the reason why my mom was dying or dead. And so it was very raw. It was very intense. And to the point where I got upset with him and I shut down. I'm not speaking to you. I'm not speaking to you. But even though I'd get in my car, God protect me, God be with me, God. But no, but that's it. This is where it is. We're very short. It's how I felt. Like almost like I can get upset with my husband and okay, I'm not speaking to you right now. That's kind of how. And then it's crazy because through the midst of that and all my anger that I didn't open up and tell him, I knew he knew I was angry, but I just didn't even want to entertain the conversation. He still, my life still, there was things that were happening. We got married. My husband and I got married.
So wait a minute. So pause. What made you get? Let's talk about these steps you took. Because you're angry. Now you're pregnant. You're with a guy who doesn't even believe in God. You're walking away from this relationship with God. You're there, but I don't want to have anything to do with you because I think you did this to me.
Right.
Instead of you're doing something for me,
right.
Opposite of where you are now. What started your journey opening up to God again? What was it?
So I think that I was being very hypocritical. I think I was being a hypocrite. And what I mean by that is I was so angry that I was putting on like this like angry face towards him, but still my heart and my mind knew that's not how God likes things done. That's not how we're doing things. So, even when I moved in with Fernando, when I moved in with him, I was like, this doesn't feel good. And every night, God forgive me, God forgive me, God forgive me. So as much as I loved him and as happy as I was that we had our child, and it just felt like I'm living with a man I'm not married to. So I always was torn. It was like that anger. I'm angry. I'm not speaking to you. I'm not asking you for help though, but I'm asking you for forgiveness. And so through that, that's the part where I go back to it and I say, he loves me. and I'm talking about God. I mean, my husband loves me too, but God loves me. And he never left me, and he wasn't doing things to me. He was doing things for me.
Yeah, and I think that's important to understand too. In that what we call, I know we hear the word hypocritical a lot, but I tell everybody, every Christian you see, and hear me real clearly, every Christian you see lives at some point in time, in some way, in in duplicity,
Mm-hmm.
where it's something we know, but we may not actually live it out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's we're in a season of grief, or we're in a season of disobedience, or we're in a season where we don't want to surrender, in a season where it requires sacrifice. I don't think there's one Christian that hasn't been there. We can be pretty hard on each other, and that's a whole nother segment. We can be really hard and judgmental on each other when we see another believer in the crux of life at that time, and not really knowing all the details of what that person is feeling emotionally, because even with grief, it crosses over into every single part of what you feel and what you think and how you absolutely see life. So even in that, to understand the grace and the mercy of God, that when we're on the periphery, when we stepped out, I think about Abraham. Abraham believed God, but yet still he went about trying to do it his own way. There isn't one person that we find beyond Jesus in the Bible that we don't find in some type of duplicitous behavior. So in seeing that and knowing, okay, you've moved in with Fern because you've had the baby now.
So we decided that we were going to live together throughout the pregnancy. I lived at home with my stepfather, who raised me since I was 6. And he said, you can stay. I thought I had disappointed him. I thought I had disappointed my brother. I have an older brother, which, that's a whole different. I thought everybody was going to be disappointed with me. I was disappointed with me. It's something that's so amazing, but the way that it worked its way, it was just a lot for me. And so Fern and I decided, okay, we're gonna move in together. He was living with roommates.
Oh gosh, how much more complicated does it get?
So now we have 2 other roommates, and now we're but ever since that moment, we're like, okay, we're doing this, and I mean, that's a whole different story from there. We lived out the lease. I'm huge. I'm about to give birth. We finally get our little place that we couldn't even afford. And yeah, that's where I had Eli. And from there, I mean, he stepped it up. I stepped it up. We opened our business that now, it's our livelihood. And like I said, even through the midst of all of that, God is still seeing me through everything.
But tell me, you got to, in the midst of this grief, and this is your grief journey, when do you and Fern decide to get married? When does he decide, oh, I believe in God? When do you see the change start to happen? And then we'll talk about, when does your joy start coming back to seeking God again?
Well, here's the thing. My joy actually was put on pause for years. All of this was just happening. I was just going through it, just going through the motions. I was going through everything. Just, I lived out the pregnancy. I knew I couldn't, be down or depressed or cry too much because it's going to affect my baby. I went on full mama bear mode. Then I was breastfeeding my baby. So I know that anything I feel, it gets transferred to my baby. So no. So, I mean, it was just, I constantly, I would let out a good cry here and there. But the relationship between Fern and I throughout that time was extremely rocky because I was so vulnerable and I was going through so much myself. And I tell him now, I'm like, babe, thank you. Like the fact that he stuck by me, that God gave him the grace and the patience to stick by me through that. Imagine grief, hormones, adulting for the first time in my life, just all the things that we were going through, and then for him to step it up the way that he did. So I kept telling him, I went from saying, no, I don't need marriage, to like telling him, I don't feel happy. Like I had to voice it out to him. I am not okay living like this. I'm not. It's not how I was raised. It's not. And we decided one day, he's like, okay, I think I agree with you. He's like, I understand. How can I make you feel better? He's like, I want to be with you forever. I want more kids with you, So he's like, okay, then we had to do things the right way. We went to the courthouse. We got our marriage license.
I didn't know that.
We got our marriage license. It's funny. Someone had crashed into me at the time. I was driving a rental. And he put on his little suit. I put on my white little dress that I purchased online for $40. And we went, paid the $30 at the courthouse, took our little 1-year-old baby in the stroller. His best friend was wearing pajamas.
No. Oh, God.
And we went and we got married. Yeah, we got married. And we had some money. We took that. We went on a trip to Cancun for a week with our baby. And that was our honeymoon, and here we are. We're still married. And then we had Enzo.
And then you had Enzo. So I want to talk about this fact. When did Fern decide, you know what? She believes in God. And there had to, you reminded me when you're talking, I can't help but think about Ruth and Naomi. As Ruth and Naomi are in the full mode of grief in the book of Ruth. And I love that whole story. They're heading back to Bethlehem. Both of them are in grief, and I could just imagine the journey that they're on. But Ruth had been around Naomi, who believed in God. Naomi's this woman who believes in God. Ruth is this Moabitess from this pagan place, but she has seen the God that Naomi believes in. In my conversation with Barbara, I was blessed, and I took some notes, reminders of some of the parts of her journey. She shared with us, he's doing it for me, not to me. How many times we think he's doing something to us? He's really doing it for us, to get us to the greater good and to lead us to a closer relationship with him. You can be angry with God. So many times we think we can't share our feelings, our emotions with God. He knows. Share your emotions with him. Living in duplicity. Let's be honest. If we all had a conversation right now, we would find some areas in our lives where we live in duplicity. And how, as we continue to journey with Jesus and we get to know him better, we come out of those areas because we grow and we mature. Barbara gets married and she has started a new family. New beginnings happen for us all the time. And I love it how Ruth and Naomi, we talked about that and sharing their grief. Barbara shares her grief. So it's a Ruth Naomi moment for us. And as God continues to do those new things in her life and is maturing her into the woman of God he desires for her to be, I pray today that you have been blessed by the conversation. Also, Reset happened in May, but we did the smart thing because you asked for it. The videos, the DVDs, I'm from the old generation, so I'm still into DVDs. That's okay. But listen, you can go online, crcconline.org, to our store, and you can watch the digital version of the conference. Go online, check it out. You will be blessed by the conference. So, hey, until next time, I'll be looking for you. Real women, real talk. Share what you heard today with someone else. God bless you. Thank you for joining us. Remember, like the video, as well as share the video and subscribe to the channel. Let us know what you think in the comment section below. You can also email us at womensministry@crcconline.org. We'll see you next time.